So today we're going to be installing the Curt trailer hitch, part number C98DR on a 2022 Hyundai IONIQ 5. I should start this by saying I'm not a mechanic. I am mechanically inclined, but this is all entirely new to me and I don't really know what I'm doing. So what we're going to be doing together is learning today. And I'm looking forward to doing that and getting our hands dirty and seeing what's underneath this car and seeing how we can get this guy bolted in.
All right, so I got here the Curt trailer from picked up off of eTrailer.com. I was just opening it up. Thought this was kind of nice. I like the way they put this. All right, so see what we got in here. All right, I got the hitch out of the box. It's just one giant thing kind of packed in the middle of this big old box. All the hardware, it looks like, is up in the wrapped area here. So we'll cut through the tape and see what's inside. All right, got the wrapping open. So here's what we've got. We've got the hitch itself. Got the two brackets for the sides where it'll attach to the body of the car. And then down here we've got a packet of all the hardware and looks like some instructions. Let's see what's in there. Yep, as expected, inside of that package there was a nice package here of bolts, washers, some nuts, and they included the fish wire, which was great. I almost picked one of those up off of Amazon, but good to know that I don't need to. And then of course the installation manual. This looks to me to be the identical document that's available digitally on eTrailer's website under this hitch. So anyhow, you want to take a look at it ahead of time, go ahead and pull the docs right there. All right, so now we're going to assemble the tools based on what they tell us here in the installation manual. So over here I have the screwdrivers, I have a Phillips head and a flat head. The fish wires provided by Curt. Thank you very much, Curt. Here I picked up, they didn't ask for this, but I picked up a set of these clip removal tools off of Amazon. I don't know if I'm going to need them. I figure I'll keep them sealed here. If I don't need them, they can go back, but if I do need them, maybe handy to have. Weren't too expensive, another $9 bucks. A ratchet set, a ratcheting socket wrench set here. It's my trusty old Craftsman. I just want to call your attention. Look at this. Isn't this awesome? This was a hand-me-down from my grandpa. It just is still working really well. Sometimes a little skips on the ratchet. I'm not sure who to report that to anymore. Anyhow, my comments on brand allegiances aside, here's the metric set. We've got this up to 19 millimeters just in case we need the big boy. And then I've got a set of SAE over here. This is my brand new torque wrench. So some of the steps at the very end call for particular torque values. You need to get up to 90 foot-pounds, if I remember right, for some of the bolts. So just keep in mind, if you're buying a torque wrench, make sure you get one that can go up that high. It wasn't too pricey, but you do need to make sure you have the capabilities. And lastly, the instructions called for a pair of shears, I assume for making the cut in the that sort of bumper cover at the very end. I didn't think that shears was the best way to do this. I'm going to see if I can give my trusty old Dremel a try and see if that maybe gives us a nice cleaner finish. Not a big deal. I mean, the cut's under the car. Nobody's really going to see it. But I still say let's try to make this nice if we can. If this isn't beefy enough, I've got a couple of other power tools to give a try. Or we can, of course, default back to the shears like Curt suggests. All right, so here is my set of tools on my very messy workbench, and time to back the car into the garage and get my head under there and see what we're working with. All right, here we are at the car. Underneath area here. If you just come right underneath the car, try to zoom out a little bit here, you can see this is that tray that they're talking about, that you might want to loosen. So we'll try to pop those clips out. And then I think this is the piece here. It kind of goes all the way down under the bumper. So that's the piece that we're ultimately going to modify once we get the brackets into the right side and the left side over here. So let's grab a flathead screwdriver. Looks like I don't really need those clip pulling tools. So let's grab a flathead screwdriver and see if I can get under here and just pop those things up. All right, step one, we're going to remove that lower bumper panel cover by removing the 10 clips and setting them aside for reinstallation. So that's where it also suggests that we may want to remove that other piece, the larger piece that was furthermost in there. All right, so let's move the camera under here. I'm just going to go in here with the screwdriver. Take it out. And go and do that to these others. A lot of dirt coming out of here after the rains we've had. Okay. All right, now that these clips are loose, we can just pull them right out. Do that to all of these guys. Okay, I've got all the clips out now. Now it looks like I can just kind of reach under here and this piece will just pop right off. There we go. Lower bumper cover has been removed. Okay, now that that lower bumper section has been removed, I'm kind of looking up in here, and I agree with the instructions. I think it makes sense to remove this this larger cover on the bottom too. An extra few minutes of deinstallation and ultimately reinstallation, but I think probably worth it. So let's do that the same way that we took the other one off. I'm going to go and pop out those clips, and hopefully this piece will just slide right off. So to get that pan off, I've got to use this 10mm socket wrench. I'm going to bring it down here. So right down there, there's a few of these guys. This is kind of what it looks like. I've loosened this one already with the socket wrench. So I get the one off here. There's a few more points. There's another one over there. One down on that end. So let me get those off too. So once you get these guys loose, they come out really easily. They're just attached right up here to these little metal brackets. So as you unscrew it, you see it kind of disappears from there. My fingers from here. All right, now that drops this pan. There's another one there in the middle. Might remove him. That'll make this even easier. Alright, so with my head here under the car, they go over here to the right, to the driver's side, sorry. All the way where you can see this is my back driver's side wheel. Just in from there, it's this little nipple looking thing. And the electrical cables they're talking about removing are back here. It's a little tough to see with the lighting, but there's two electrical cables that are up in there, and that's the bundle that we need to dislodge. Now, I agree with the post on the IONIQ forum. These mud flaps, you can get these off. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. So I'm going to do that. It looks like there's just a clip over here, maybe a couple of screws and bolts up there. We'll see what we're working with when we get there. Alright, so looking at the exploded view, you can see that what we're looking for under the car is a set of 3 holes like that in the frame. We've got here a mounting bracket. I'm going to run like that on the driver's side in the back, and it should connect right up into the holes. I've got 2 more of those. Looks like they've slotted those just in case you need a little bit of wiggle room for alignment. So let's go back under the car and see what we can find. Alright, so we're back down here under the car. It's a little tough to see, but if you go on the back driver's side and then back up over here, I don't know if you'll be able to see this in the video or not. Right up here, you see those holes? There's one there, and And there's one that's kind of buried a little bit deeper in here, beyond the cover here. So it looks like that's what we're going to try to bolt into. Let's see what we can. All right, so to get that bracket into place, looks like this electrical wire is a little bit in the way. All right, so I did end up having to remove this electrical cable. I just kind of pulled on it and something pried loose. All right, with a little bit of doing, we got it in there. I did need to take this cable and bend it pretty far out of the way, because getting this guy perfectly situated is really critical to getting the bolts to catch in there. And the last thing you want to do is strip those threaded holes by cross threading. So I left it loose for now. I'm gonna get in there. All right, we got the driver's side more or less situated. So now here we are on the passenger side, and you see the passenger side's actually a lot easier access. Man, after getting the driver's side done, this one's going to be a cakewalk. No cables to worry about. Just got to screw right in up there. And again, I think I'm going to try to just loosen this wheel cover a little bit, just so we can sort of peel it out of the way. But then the process will be the same as the driver's side. So now that I'm getting a little better at this, I wanted to just show you what I mean by loosening the mud flap covers. It's just the one clip down here. Just taking that out, and that loosens it just to the point you can kind of manipulate the bottom, there you go, the bottom of it here. So then you can kind of peel that up out of the way. It doesn't have to be out of the way for very long, just long enough for you to be able to kind of slide the parts in there, get them situated up on the rail, and tag those bolts in. All right, we've got the next bracket on there now. Kind of loosely ratchet on there. Look, you can even see this one. You can see where those bolts are, just right up into the frame. All right, so we've now completed step 3 of the procedure, and we're going to move on to step 4. So step 4 means we're going to have to go grab the hitch, hold it up there between those two side plates, and grab these carriage bolts here, and these, they call them flange nuts, serrated flange nuts, in order to secure that up into the brackets. Keep everything still kind of loose until it's all attached, and then we'll go torque everything down. All right, I got the hitch now down into position and just set right here on the underside of the car. So I'm gonna maybe see if I can get an extra set of hands to go and hoist that thing up in the middle while I quickly go and pop some bolts in from either side. So we'll see how that goes. It looks pretty straightforward. Those carriage bolts are going to go into these little square holes, and they have on them some little square shoulders. I'll show you that. So the carriage bolts have these little square edges, and you can see from the exploded view diagram here, maybe better to see down here, what we're going to do with these guys is shove them in from this side, like that, and then those squares will keep them nicely in place. And then we're going to need to grab one of these guys on those brackets that we attached just a few moments ago. We're going to run these in from the other side, just like that, and screw it all down. All right, so I've been able to get the hitch up into place. I did it all just by myself. So a little tricky, but you've got to make sure that you get the angle of this guy right and sort of keep it lifted up. I sort of shoved my knee under there and used that just as a prop, and that was really all I needed as a lever. And then carefully slid in the carriage bolts, which nicely kind of guide themselves in once they get in there. You see I put one in reverse just for now, just to help lift it in there. So let me go pop this around the right direction and get everything tightened up. So it is actually helpful, I think, to get the fish wire for some of these bolts, especially some of the ones up in the really tight spaces back here. So just showing you how I have this set up. I've got the bolt itself on the coiled end. I've threaded through, and I think that's how I need to pull this guy up into place so that I can get it to actually fit in that tiny little hole. If you have smaller hands than me, you might be able to slide in there, but in my case, I'm gonna see what we can do with the magic of technology. All right, I finally got the last bolt on here. Now this is the passenger side. Getting that one you can see sort of in the top right of the frame here, sort of closest to the body of the car. Getting that one to actually connect up in there was a real pain. It's just feeding the stupid bolt through. So what I found really made a difference was just making sure everything was incredibly sloppy. Like, make sure your bolts are on like their last thread, just enough to keep them in place, and then you can kind of grab the thing by the hitch and just sort of wiggle it back and forth as you pull the bolt with the fish wire. Eventually, believe me, that little bastard will get in there. All right, so the last step of the hardware part of this says to torque all M12 hardware to 86 foot-pounds, torque all half-inch hardware to 90 foot-pounds. So I got my torque wrench here, just bought off of Amazon. And yeah, the markings here aren't super well defined in terms of 86 versus 90 foot-pounds. We'll just kind of get this thing dialed into something about right, and let's hope for the best. All right, we are all set, all torqued up here. We have this thing nice and solid. Feels really good. Looks really nice. I did the assembly, the last bits of the assembly with the hitch, using the cardboard box actually that the hitch came in, just to protect it from the concrete here and make sure it didn't get too scratched up right away. Otherwise, getting in at the bolts like you expect, the driver's side was a little bit of a pinch. The passenger side was a lot more straightforward. But anyway, trusty torque wrench got us in there, no problem. So now I'm going to go ahead and undo a lot of this stuff that I did earlier. So tag this guy back up into place with the clips. Do the same thing with the mud flaps around the wheels. And then we're going to make our cuts in the trim panel. And then we should be good to go. Okay, so now we're ready to make the cuts on this underbody trim piece. So they give you some rough guidelines here for how to do it. About 1.5 inches from each of the 2 holes in the middle and about 3 3/4 across. So I've gone ahead and made some marks here. About 1.5 inches on that side. Got about 1.5 inches on that side. There you go. And the whole thing is about 3 3/4. About some parallax error. So the only thing that's a little bit different is that I'm going to do a little bit differently from the instructions. The instructions say just to basically cut this into 2 separate pieces and then tag them back up as 2 separate pieces. You can do that, but I don't think you need to. And from what I've read on the other post on the IONIQ forum, you don't need to. So we're going to leave a little bit of material here just connecting these 2 pieces together. So we'll still have one continuous piece with just a big old hole removed from the middle. And at the end of the day, I think that's going to give a nice cleaner look as this piece sort of hugs around the top of the trailer hitch. So to do that, I'm going to attempt using the Dremel, and let's see how that does for making a nice clean cut. All right, coarse cut. I got kind of that U shape out. Just going to go and clean up the edges a little bit before we install this. All right, that's a little bit better, a little bit cleaner edges here. So now we're just going to go pop this back on the car, put the clips back in, hopefully everything lines up. All right, we're back here at the car. And just going to take this piece here, lift it up, and then just kind of slide it in here. Let's see how it fits. And like a glove, this fits perfectly. There's a really great idea, good suggestion on the IONIQ forum to cut the U shape here. I think that looks really, really nice. All right, so we'll get this clicked into place and pop the clips back in. All right, and we are all done here. Looks good. All the clips are back into place. The fit is nice and seamless. Barely even know it's there. Looks good. My compliments to the people at Curt. It's been great doing this together. Thanks for joining me as we've taken this adventure. I encourage you to do the same. You can DIY this. It's not a hard install, but certainly not an easy one either. So make sure you got an afternoon plan for it. That's all for now.